President Obama yesterday called the attack cowardly. He vows investigators will uncover whoever is responsible. The president will head to Boston tomorrow. He'll attend an interfaith service for the victims. It's being held at a cathedral less than a mile from Monday's bombings. The president expected to speak at the memorial.
CBS News contributor Condoleezza Rice was Secretary of State under President George W. Bush, also served as his national security advisor. Thank you for joining us, Secretary Rice. Let me ask you about this. This is the first bomb attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. What's going on inside the White House? You've been there at a time like this about trying to figure things out.
Yes, well, first let me add my voice of condolence to the victims and their families and prayers for the full recovery of those who were maimed. But obviously in the White House, these are the most difficult of days. The president has to be at once the comforter of the country, the person who pulls the country together under these difficult circumstances. The White House will be very focused on preventing the next attack. Indeed, the kinds of clues that John Miller was talking about are obviously to catch the perpetrators, but also to get clues about whether or not there may be follow-on attacks planned. And then finally, it's just important to note that even though there is a much better apparatus for dealing with these kinds of issues, an entire Homeland Security apparatus, when it comes right down to it, the president feels the ultimate responsibility for the protection of the American people.
Because you were not only Secretary of State but National Security Advisor, you understand national security concerns. So just thinking about what happened here, and so far no one has claimed credit for it, what would you be worried about?
Well, I think your gravest worry at this point, because in many ways this day in Boston is your worst nightmare, an attack on American soil. But you really have to get over that fear and move on to making certain that you prevent the next attack if there is to be one. Perhaps this was the act of a single individual or a small cell and there's nothing else coming. But they will wonder whether or not the Rice incident is somehow related. So it's the follow-on attack.
But what does it say to you
concern.
That no one has stepped forward to claim credit?
I do think that's odd because normally these jihadist groups, the biggest ones, like Al-Qaeda, would take some kind of responsibility. But because Al-Qaeda and the jihadists have become so atomized, that doesn't mean that this isn't somehow related to the jihadists. But obviously, they will sort through where this attack comes from. Is it domestic? Is it foreign? We will reach out to our foreign partners for any information that they might have. And I can tell you that information will be flooding into the National Counterterrorism Center from around the world because every country in the world will be looking to its intelligence and law enforcement agencies for any clue as to whether or not this has some foreign connection.
I noted, Secretary Rice, that President Obama in his statement yesterday said how little the government knows, how little he knows. He said, we don't know who did this, why it was planned or executed, whether it was foreign or domestic. Why say that? What goes behind what the president is saying? Does he know that people are listening to every word that he says, including those that might be responsible?
Well, of course, the president wants to reassure the American people that the government is on the trail, so to speak, and that justice will be done. But the president has to be careful. He has to be sure that he's got as much information as he can about what is now a forensic effort to understand how this attack unfolded. So I'm not surprised that very little has been said yet. This was obviously an act of terror. It was obviously an effort to maim as many as many innocent citizens as possible. But the president has to be very careful not to give out information prematurely here. And it's entirely possible, too, that they want to be certain that they're not tipping off those who might have been responsible.
Secretary Rice, good to see you. Thank you.